Welcome to Homes Room. Just like homeroom, we start off our day getting together with our homies, swapping stories, even a little kiss and tell action. This podcast contains language not suitable for younger listeners, topics about sex and mental health. Discretion is advised. Our views are our own. Let class begin.
Welcome back to Homes Room. It's the season finale, season 2. I got my buddy Kaitlin here. What's up, Kaitlin?
Hi, homies. What's up? I'm actually a little sad hearing that our intro song because I don't know when I'll get to hear it again, man. We're taking a little break. That makes me so sad.
Yeah, I mean, technically, you could hear it whenever you press play on an episode.
Yeah, that's true.
Whatever there. So, with that in mind, this is a perfect opportunity to plug. If you're not caught up, or if you listen to this one and then got other, you can always go back and listen to episodes you haven't listened to yet, or episodes that you really liked, which kind of is something that we might talk about today because it's the season finale and I want to kind of reflect. If you listened last week, we did some self-reflecting. Now we're going to podcast self-reflect. I also want to point out that one of the big things with podcasting, they say, is consistency and being able to keep a consistent recording schedule, being able to keep a consistent release date, being able to keep up with social media posts and all that. So I just want to give us both a pat on the back for keeping consistency front of mind and always being consistent, even when we might take a week off because of one reason or the other. We the consistency is built in, so we're just oh, we got it, we're good, and I love that. So good job, Kaitlin.
Good job to you too, Matt. I know this is a thankless kind of job, but it's your consistency, your creativity, your editing skills when your co-host makes it fucking borderline an unusable episode.
So funny story about that. The episode, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it because it's technically Monday and you listened on Tuesday, but so the episode that airs today in our timeline, which is With a Ghost Hunter, shout out Morgan, that episode, something happened where her side didn't upload, but then when it did upload, there was a 12-second delay on her side. So everything was sped up. So you hadn't finished asking a question, but her response was already in because there was some weird delay somewhere, and it wasn't your side because your audio is synced with mine, but hers wasn't. So when you listen to that episode and it seems like everything flows as normal and it doesn't, you won't notice any of that. It's because I spent the time to edit and fix all of those mishap, jump, weird, slicey things. And, that's fun. So it's always I don't want to say it's a thankless job because I don't think it's a thankless job personally. I will say though, the consistency part of it, that's what I do. I was a logistics manager because consistency and repeatable processes, I can make my coffee by eyeballing it because it's consistent. So consistency is just a thing I do. So being able to be consistent for me doesn't necessarily mean a lot, but having a partner be consistent alongside me and not fuck up the program is huge. So good job to you. So you don't give me that compliment. You just take all the compliment.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I also would like to advocate for myself and let you homies know that usually we record these in the evenings after my kids have gone to bed. They've gotten a little bit better, so maybe this season there was a little less toddler screaming in the background, except for maybe once or twice. I don't know.
I never actually hear that. With the exception of the maybe twice where it's clearly they're about to burn your house down upset. That's that it hasn't. I don't usually notice it, and if I do, I think one time your husband sneezed, and you're can you hear him? I'd never heard it, and I thought it was so funny because I could see you react, and I thought I could hear it, but I actually couldn't hear it. So
nice. But I am still learning how to reprogram / work around my ADHD, and for us to record in the evenings, typically when my meds are wearing off. Some evenings are better than others, but hot damn. I've told Matt this off camera, but now that I'm getting to a point in my law enforcement career that, you know, I'm doing a lot of fun stuff. I'm doing a lot of fun cases. It's also helping me. And I know I privately told you this, but I want to also publicly tell you this too, just because I think our homies should hear it too. But I appreciate you because you, first of all, the consistency, you allow me to schedule in time weekly to just be creative and connect with my friend and process creative topics and, you know, build out these episodes. But you're also not you're a friend that I have that's not in law enforcement. And the older that I get,
Fair.
the longer I've been in this field, the more I appreciate all my friendships, but especially like mine with yours. Like you just drop your madisms and then I tell you something and you drop a sentence that I have to spend the next 3 days chewing on because, hey, that's a different perspective. I didn't think about it that way. So shout out, Matt.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was listening back to, because like obviously before to edit these episodes, I gotta listen back to them, and I was listening back to that, like the Mattism thing, and I always think it's so funny because I know for me, whenever I have a thought, my natural assumption is everybody else has had this thought, so it's not original. So like when I think of something that like shock somebody to be like, I never thought of it that way, it's always surprising to me because I just assume my thoughts are like the least original thoughts, and everybody has like good thoughts and everybody has like their own opinion, and my opinion is no more valid than any other person's. And you know, I always think that that's kind of one of those like givens, and I have to remind myself that like that's not necessarily the case. And my current like workplace is very much that way, where I have to remember that like some people literally only see the world through their lens and cannot see it any other way. Mm-hmm. And when I'm reminded of that, it makes me be like, God, how do people, whatever. I can't put too much brain power into that. But that's a perfect segue into something I wanted to tell you as a follow-up to our ridiculous weekends from like, I think 2 weekends ago now is what it was, where my daughter was dealing with I'm just gonna straight up call it a bully, because like she ends up being a bully. My daughter stepped up and like went to a different faculty member because the faculty member that she had been talking to wasn't there, and that person was outraged and is pushing the ball forward because it's like, hey, something should have been done about this before now. And I would assume they're kind of regretfully like, I'm sorry that it got to this point that you have to come talk. And I am super proud of her, not because of that, but because on the way home, she was telling me, you know, I couldn't just stand by and like let it happen. And I was like, yeah, I mean, there's some times where like some people can like see stuff happen and don't say anything. And there's other times, and it sucks to be that person to be like, yo, so this is happening and I don't like it. And she's like, yeah, but the way that you raised me, I can't I can't do that. I have to step up. And I was like, yeah. And I'm glad that you're doing that, because like, you know, like you are kind of being bullied. And sometimes if it's happening to you, you don't want things to happen just as bad, if not worse. And she's like, exactly. And that's why I'm like not letting this go. And I'm doing something about it because I wasn't raised that way. And it just made me like happy. And I looked at her and I said straight to her friggin' eyeballs, so next time I tell you I'm proud of you and you're like, why are you proud of me? Remember this moment right here.
Good for her, man. It's also a ripple effect too, like an unseen ripple effect. So like extra double props, because whatever behavior she's bringing to light, the hopefully like the best outcome possible is that shit's nipped in the bud, and then she saves somebody else down the road going through a similar, if not the exact same experience. Yeah, so she's not necessary. So I know for me, it's easier for me to be like, okay, well, I'll do this for somebody else just because I'm still dealing with advocating for myself to myself, being kind to myself, being like, I deserve this. I need to go to therapy for me. No, it's a lot easier for me to pick myself up by my broken and tattered bootstraps, if you will. I hate that saying, but for lack of a
You're
better
the one
phrase.
you're the one that debunked that saying and like brought it to like,
yeah, that's true.
So
it's a lot easier for me to motivate myself on days where I don't want to do that shit by saying I'm dealing with this, I'm going to therapy for my husband, for my kids, for my family members. Like, it's a lot easier for me to quantify that and draw motivation. So I don't know if that's something that would help her. That's definitely the perspective that has helped me lately. But even just like advocating for herself, that's outstanding. Clearly she's already light years ahead of where I'm at with that.
well, yeah, I mean, that's always kind of the way it is. I say it all the time. You know, one of the things that I try and teach my kids is it's not that, again, like I just said, my opinion is no more valid than anybody else's, but right and wrong is ultimately what's important. So if something's wrong and like it's morally wrong,
Mm-hmm.
they have a hard time like squaring with it because they know it's morally wrong. And it doesn't mean that like they're like, oh, well, I'm going to tell on you because you're doing this, or I'm going to do like it is, this isn't okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it's not okay. And I'm going to tell you to stop. And if you don't stop, then I'm going to remove myself from the situation because I understand that this isn't right. And I'm not about to get in trouble for you being stupid. And that's one thing that like, as a child, I was the one doing dumb shit constantly. So I'm glad that they are like better at not doing dumb shit in the way that like I would, like you said, you call yourself a stove toucher. I was a burn the fucking house down because touching the stove, I know the stove is hot. So why would I want to hurt myself? Let's take this a step further and see what else we can do here. Because hurting myself isn't fun. Will this thing catch fire? Will that thing catch fire? Oh, that thing caught fire better than this thing. Let's light that thing on fire again. So,
in the beginning of that tangent, I was going to respond with spoken like a true Enneagram 2. But you lost me there at the end with all the fire talk. So sorry.
Yeah. So also, we're gonna front load this episode with a lot of random things before we get into the reflectee of the season thing. But I was talking to Courtney, and I'm trying to do a better job. This is like, I guess, behind the curtain, the relationship thing. One of her things was she didn't like that I talked to, friends or somebody else about, something I was going through, because she's like, I'm your person, like you should talk to me. And not all the time does your spouse become your safe person. It's just the nature of like what trust and safety is. So one of the things I'm trying to do is like reach out to her more and say the things that like I need to, or like that are just like rattling around in my head, because it's important and she does deserve to know, whatever, fine. But I was like, in my intrusive thoughts of like, oh, maybe I, like what would life be like if I wasn't here, or what would, how would that work out? And, your brain trying to rationalize like your emotions or your depression or your whatever. Right. So what I always come back to is like, my girls growing up without a dad, and like, I couldn't do that to them. And one of the things that always like sticks in my, like, I guess, hesitation to reach out to somebody is the response that they're going to give is always going to either make it worse or be riddled with like their guilt of, yeah, I should reach out to you more. I'm sorry I didn't reach out. Like the standard, like, I don't know how to react to this heavy thing that you just told me. So I'm going to react by saying like, I know I could do better, or I'm sure that that's hard because of XYZ, and give you a list of reasons why you shouldn't feel that way. And not all the time does that help. So I was talking to her about it, and I sent her the text message that I probably wouldn't have sent anybody else, because I was just like rattling around in my brain. And one of the things that like her response is that she knows that she could have, like, she's one of the culprits of doing a thing, and like could be or could have been doing a better job of, right? And that's one of those things where like I was like, yeah, see, and that's the thing is when somebody texts you like that they're feeling low or whatever, you shouldn't make them explain to you how you could best help them, because when they're at their lowest, you are trying to ask them to like basically cook the meal for you. And sometimes responding in that way sucks, because you almost make it hard for you to be that safe person, because it's like, I don't want to say it's about fixing it or not fixing it. And I don't want to say it's about like, you know, your like list of reasons why, you know, they're a good person or why they're or whatever. Cause sometimes it's not what they want to hear. What they want to hear is that like, it's okay that you feel this way right now. But when you figure out, you know, what you need, or if there's anything that you think of that you need, let me know. Or, you know, my favorite is, do you need a response or do you need time? Because then I could say, I think I just need time, or, you know, I'm just feeling this, as opposed to forcing me to like chew down your response that basically is your guilt, or you're questioning how to respond, when in actuality, all you could say is, I feel that sucks, and I'm sorry that you're in that spot right now. Is there anything I can do for you?
It's so interesting that you have that perspective, and it makes total and complete sense. There was a season of my relationship with my younger sister where I experienced that, where she couldn't just vent to me and me just hear it and validate, or, you know, I couldn't show up for her how she needed me to. My instant response was to jump into action. Okay, well, have you tried this? Did you do this? What do you want me to go do this? Give me their fucking phone number and I'll take care of this shit for you, because that's unacceptable, kind of stuff. And it finally got to the point where she was like, yo, I don't need you to solve my problems for me. Sometimes I just want, like, that's not what I need from you. Devil's advocate, like, yes, I do need to, just like we've had on conversations on a prior episode of listening to hear and showing up for our friends the way that they need to be supported and the way that they want to be supported. At the same time, when you're choosing to open up to me, that doesn't mean I have to shoulder that for you. It's almost like a panic, like a survival mode activation of someone that I really love that's close to me is struggling with some shit. And I know if it were me, this is how I would do it. So let me just do this for you, because I can solve your fucking problems. Yeah. When she is the smartest, most capable, responsible person that I know. What an insult to her intelligence for me to just assume that she didn't do anything to try and fix this problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? So I appreciate your perspective, and that's just what it reminds me of, because I want to solve people's problems. I love you guys. Like, I want to solve the problem. Why don't we just solve the problem?
One of my least favorite things is like when people do kind of that, but like they throw it in a sense of like, you know, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Like, you know, what do you need beyond the like basic like 6 steps that you would offer first to anybody who's struggling? And it's like, if I knew that, I would not be struggling because I would be able to go do that. So what I need is, I need, you know, like in this moment, like I always call it the void, where like I tell a lot of people who are like friend adjacent, I don't want to say acquaintances, but like people I know that I'm close with, that we've had like real conversations, but like I also wouldn't talk to them outside of these circumstances. So like I'm cool with you for these purposes, but not for any other purposes. I always tell them that like, hey, my inbox is a void. If you ever are feeling some kind of way and you just need to say something out loud, because a lot of times it's just being able, and text is not technically out loud, but it's no longer in your head. It's out there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say it out loud. Sometimes that's all that's needed, is like, I just needed to say it so that like it wasn't stuck inside my conscious. It's out there. And like, I relieved some of that pressure. And I tell people all the time, like, my inbox is a void. If you want to, just type void at the beginning, or sending this into a black hole or something, and I'll read it and then be like, okay. Or, you know, like if you say black hole, or we have the like one of my friends that does it, when he sends me something that's tagged black hole, I don't even read it. I just like open it so that it shows that it was read, and then I erase the message on my side. So like it's not something that I'm tempted to read later on, just simply because it's like, that's something that they just needed to say. And it's, you know, it's not for me, it's for them. And it's like a way I can show up for them and give them something that like makes them feel better. And, you know, a couple days go by, I might respond and be like, hey, just making sure you're, you know, you're feeling good. Cause I obviously don't know what you said. So I just want to make sure that like you're in a good place. And usually like, yeah, I'm a lot, you know, I'm back to normal, or, you know, this thing isn't bugging me anymore. So it's like, good. And then most of the time we have a conversation about whatever it was, because they were able to like jettison the feeling and swing back around, and now they're willing to talk about it. And it's like I said, ways to show up for people. And again, everybody is different. So what I'm saying doesn't go for everybody. I just know for me personally, it's always like, I don't want the guilt. Like one of my least favorite things is when people like, I know that my kids are a reason, but it's super terrible when everybody's like, well, what about your kids? It's like, so you're going to guilt me. You're going to put like guilt on me that like, I get that part. That parent guilt is like, is a thing I already got. So I don't need it. But yeah, so there's that. Like I said, we're gonna load the front half of this with a little bit of heavy, and then we're gonna talk about some you know, fun of this last season.
Can I tell you something fun? Because I'm bummed out now.
I guess so.
I just want to give a big shout out to Court. I think consistently she has given us, like, if Homes Room had a biggest VIP cheerleader, it would be Court, Mrs. Holmes herself. I know, you know, I don't, now that I'm less active on Instagram, I don't get to interact with her as much as I did, because we were in each other's comments hyping each other up, you know. But you know, she is listening to the rough cuts of episodes. She's giving feedback on episodes, and you'll text me and be like, hey, Courtney really loved this. Like, we have to do another buddy watch, but this time you have to pick the movie or something. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, Courtney. Let's do it. You know? So I just shout out to Mrs. Holmes of Mrs. Holmes, like the Mrs. Holmes room, if you will. All of this couldn't be possible without you as well. Like, that's one thing I'm learning to like lean on to my husband as well, and be like, I can't do anything without like him being the yin to my yang, and like picking up slack of, hey, you're kicked out of our bedroom and my shit cave for an hour a week. Hope that's okay. Hope that helps.
Yeah. And I mean, this sounds, I guess, kind of bad, but hey, he'll get a break from that for a little bit. So there's it'll swing back around, and he'll get used to it. And then by the time he gets used to it, maybe it'll be like, oh dang, here it is again. But yeah, I'm definitely happy. That's definitely a shout out for a season finale, is that like she does listen to the episodes, and you know, whenever, like anytime I have like ideas or something, I usually bounce them off of her first to be like, hey, does this seem like a good episode? Or, you know, what episodes do you like the most? Or like, what things might you want to hear us talk about? Because she's also part of our like target audience. You know, somebody that is learning a lot about the world later on in life, because she just wasn't exposed to quite as much. So, you know, that's kind of what that, you know, the whole every day as a class mentality is about, is people who are learning things that they might not have known, or might not have like opened themselves up to because of shame or fear, or just like sheer adjacent, never like being around it. So, you know, it's one of those things. So good job, Court. Thank you. She gave a thumbs
All
up.
right.
You don't hear the thumbs up. So.
I'm less bummed now.
Good. So, like I said, I want to talk about some of the episodes that we've done and some of the things that we were like really proud of. And I've said it before, and I'm just gonna like jump off the tip with it. Is like I think one of the episodes I'm most proud of this season is the Spencer McKenzie Brown 2, simply because so much effort went into that in such a last minute way, and like the result of that episode for me is just like probably I could listen to it like a dozen times, and every time it would like still hit me in the same like, God, that's just such a good conversation. And that's obviously one of my homies from way back that we just vibe on a different level. So no matter how much time has passed, no matter how much distance is between us, it's just like one of those like, boom, we're here, let's do it. And like I just sent him a message. It was like one of those Instagram reels that hit you, and it's like, send this to a person you would. So like it was like, send this to a person who you would grill a steak on the mountainside with, and and enjoy the view or whatever. So I sent it to him, and it's like, because it's just like, yeah, absolutely, we just fucking like hang out and vibe. And obviously as his music is our intro and outro, I love it. I love his sound. I love what he does, and we support each other in like the best way a creative can support another creative, where it's just like, fuck yeah, dude. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, I got no words, but like, fuck yeah. So there's
Hell
that.
yeah, dude. Kenzie's a musical genius, and it is, I've said it before, but like I can have like some crazy intense Mondays between I'm alone fighting with these feral raccoon toddlers to get them dressed. Every morning, as soon as I crack open their doors and I'm, hello, my beautiful child, I love you. The flesh of my flesh, the blood of my blood, who I toiled and put my body through so much to bring life to you. I bore my husband a king and a queen. Good morning, king and queen. And instantly they're fucking, rah, where's daddy? Like that's just like sets the tone for mornings. So that's like mornings, work's just insane. More evenings, like bath night, all that shit. As soon as you start playing our intro, I just like, it just is like, so, and we've even said too, like, oh fuck, Mondays are the longest day of my week because I gotta still be on from our, from morning to after, literally when I hit end, recording with you. Then I can finally relax and just like chill and turn off for the day. Sometimes when we dread recording these episodes, like I have never not regretted doing an interview or like doing an episode of Homes Room. And again, I like it's instantly as soon as the theme song and the outro from Kenzie play, I'm just like, all right, that was a good one. I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I stayed activated.
That's one of those, like, I think, taking it back to like the very beginning, when I was listening, like, I shouldn't say listening, when I was looking for intro music and what I was going to do, I like sampled a bunch of like, free, like, copyrightless music. And I was like, okay, maybe this, maybe that. And none of it just like hit the way that I wanted it to like hit and feel and set the tone for what it was. Because although this is like a fun experience, there's also some seriousness to it, there's also some heaviness to it, and I was like, nothing is hitting the vibe that I want. And I listened to like his music obviously, but I listened to the instrumental of Tether just as much as I listened to like the actual song, and I was like, man, I fucking love this beat and like the finger picking and all that. Like that's like my favorite, like a ton of my favorite sounds all in one song. And it just so happened to already have an instrumental. And I was like, this is going to be the most awkward fucking ask ever. But like, hey, so I'm starting a podcast. Like, can I, and I do not regret sending and shooting that shot simply because it gave birth to the intro and outro of the show. But more importantly, I had already written the words that I was going to say, and I was like toying with them, but like when I was just saying them and reading them and trying to record it to like get used to recording and get used to like hearing my voice and, you know, what I kind of wanted to do, nothing really like sounded good. And then I got the okay to use that music, and I guess I'll take a step back. I got the idea to use that music, and I got really inspired about like what that could sound like. And I started to play with like different tones and different like cadence and a different like flow of how the words came out. And I was like, you know, maybe that might work. We'll see though. He might not want me to use it. So I'm not gonna get my hopes up. Like when you're buying a house and you're touring a bunch and you like them, you got to fall in love a little bit to like to want to put in an offer kind of deal. So when he responded like, absolutely, like I'm blown away that you would even ask kind of thing, I was just like, fuck yeah. And then the first time I recorded the words and was like, I kind of have a direction. And then what ultimately became the words to the intro, I was like, I kind of like this. I think this might be the take. I had 3 takes that I liked, and I was like, I think this might be the one, but I got to edit it with the music and see what that sounds like. And as soon as I put the music to it, I was like, that's fucking it. I don't even like this. 26 seconds is about to be like the most fire fucking thing I've ever done in my life. And I was like, damn, now I got to do an outro because I didn't think about that. So I was like pumped to do it. So I'm glad whenever we play different music or whenever like something's glitchy with the intro or outro on somebody's thing, that is the number one feedback I get is, or I shouldn't say feedback, but like the number one like confused question is like, did you guys change your music? Because it like glitched out weird on their end, and it's like, no. And then they're like, okay, never mind. I played it again and it was fine. So like legit, the intro and outro, a lot of people like that's their deal. I truly love that one of my really good friends is like embedded in this podcast every day. You know what I mean? That's just so strange. I got to figure out a way to get like Simo something or other like embedded in this because it would be hilarious.
Speaking of Simo, she has been popping off on the TikTok. She's been making some really creative, cool freaking videos specifically around Halloween. I'm so proud of our friend Simo. Oh my gosh. Yeah, she's also just like very entertaining, and we're mutuals on on the TikTok and gas each other up. But yeah,
good.
Shout out to Simo.
Yeah, like I said, I think that's another one. The 1 year later episode, the fact that we were able to even like have a 1 year later was awesome, and like I really enjoyed that. That was obviously our starting point, but hitting an interview with her for a second time and like hearing her feel like there was a rejuvenation, you know, having that like I got to do this now vibe come off of the interview that we did, then to come back 1 year later and like hear that feeling was mutual and I just love it. I think it's awesome.
I love that she like opened up and told us a little bit more of the background about her like film project involving the aftermath of like Hurricane Katrina. Friends, homies, that film is actually streaming on like Tubi right now. I think it's on Amazon Prime that you can go check out that project. Yeah, I just
this is Pink Elephant that we're talking about, and that was like from a while ago. There's a ton of other things that are being worked on, but also on her YouTube and things like that. So like,
speaking of her YouTube, I really like her vlogs of like behind the scenes of being a director and stuff like that too. I'm just like, as somebody who has struggled to express creativity and tried to figure out how to do that in a way that doesn't make me feel like garbage, I now understand creatives a little bit better than I probably ever have in adulthood. So to see like a grown up doing creativity all the time is something I really have a lot of respect for. But yeah, Simo, we love you.
I think that's one of those, again, super fun, I guess, topics just in general, like a person I could talk to for a really long time. We still bounce writing stuff back and forth. So, it just kind of is, but also, we talked about AI and like, I think that was like maybe last week or the week before last, where we were just bouncing like, uses for AI and how things are done. And I was talking about the software with Riverside and how I can do the like magic clips, which like puts together quick the reels that you see on Instagram and stuff, but like how they're almost good. I always have to go in and like kind of fix it or change it or tweak it, and it just becomes a strange, like AI almost does the job, but can't, not quite. And how it is super helpful, but it isn't super. So having that conversation be something that like we can continue to have. And we recorded that, at the beginning of the year, and here it is, October, and we're still having that same conversation because it's just like so interesting, and time has gone by and we've changed opinions.
AI ain't going anywhere, dude. It's just going to be a larger and longer conversation at this point. Some of the insane deep fakes and the music and the like voices. If you have a large enough voice sample, like over a year's worth of...
You are going to say, I eat babies for fun. Like, that is a thing that's going to happen to you.
Of podcast episodes, Matt. Like, there's probably a large enough data set of vocabulary.
I have the ability to do that through the software we currently use, which is wild to me sometimes. I've done it, and I personally don't think it sounds exactly like me. Like I can hear it, but I also like, maybe we'll get there, maybe we won't, I don't know. But I'm
just thinking about crimes.
Yeah, of course you are. I don't know what else you would think of besides crimes. I got to get you like a Scooby-Doo sticker for your background or something. One of the other like conversations that we had, since we're talking about interviews, is like the conversation with Dr. Gittins, just because that one, like, we just it was just fun. Like, it was like one of those conversations where like he had his assistant on and she was like kind of monitoring a conversation, and then she was like, once I feel like it's going okay, I'll just like bow out so you guys can talk, but like I just want to, and like she dipped so quick, and she later was like, oh, I had internet issues or I had a phone call or something, so I just like but like it was going fine, so I didn't need to be on there. And it seemed like he had a good time, and I started hearing him on like a ton of other podcasts immediately after, and it was just like a proud moment that like I felt like, I don't know when those interviews happened, but ours dropped, and I might have recorded before he was on all these other like bigger podcasts. And I was like, look, that's a feather in my cap. This guy was so down to earth and so chill that he came on my tiny podcast. I love it.
I genuinely enjoyed like just being able to, I probably would have asked him like some insane questions and some dingus questions, but I genuinely enjoyed being able to sit back and just enjoy that interview as just like an audience member. He seemed like he was really awesome, and I'd also love to take a pass at him at some point. However, I don't have like specific episode. Obviously, like talking to Kim and I vibed. I love Kim. I need to go to her tattoo shop in Kansas City. I'm
Vicious
Sweethearts. I will be at some point going to get a tattoo from Kim, but we just like vibes. I really loved the Boss Babe series this season.
Yeah.
I love that we had the ability and the capability and like the scheduling flexibility a little bit to have more joint interviews throughout the whole season, but specifically with Boss Babes, to revisit some of our old friends, to talk to some of our new friends. My new friends, whatever. I feel like obviously I'm proud of and super pumped and excited about the first iteration of Boss Babes, but I feel like this season, the second iteration of it was like a stronger product, and one that, I don't know. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm really freaking pumped to see what the third season of Boss Babes is going to look like. just generally, yes, we did more joint interviews, but you also, this season, I felt like you were more comfortable with giving me interview feedback or like pro tips of like, here's how you should structure this. Here's the old episode that you should listen to prepare for this. Here's how you get to a deeper layer or like deeper level of interview questions. I feel like you were also far more like, I can tell our relationship as co-hosts has developed and grown a little bit more too, because if you'll remember, Matt, I was not doing very well with my anxiety for most of the first season, probably. If not, like, definitely most of the tail end of the last season. You texted me I don't even remember what the text was. And I spiraled for the next hour and a half because I was like, oh my God, he's mad at me. He hates me so much. Oh my gosh, are we fighting? Oh my gosh, he's literally going to uninvite me from being a co-host. It's like a base marker for my personal development and just like where I'm at, that you were more comfortable giving me more constructive feedback this season, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard you. Like, I didn't just like swallow up or like fall into just like survival mode. I have a really bad habit sometimes when I get constructive criticism to get really defensive, which is not helpful. Something I'm still working on, but I'm really proud that I didn't really do that with you and your constructive feedback. I'm really happy I finally got you to take an Enneagram test. And specifically, my favorite moment of this season, I don't even know if we were done recording or not. It was a comment that you made to me about how I sometimes make it difficult to edit for you or whatever. And you were like, no, legitimately, since you got your nose job and your nose fixed, editing has been a lot easier. Like, before your nose was fixed, your 95% blocked left nostril, while that thing was still occurring, I'd listen back to some of your audio and be like, God damn, what is Kaitlin doing? It sounds like she's hauling up a giant boulder up a mountain. Why is she breathing so heavily?
I did not say that, but I get
It's
the
not a
point.
direct quote. It's not a direct quote. That was so
it's
funny.
Not even paraphrasing.
That's so funny to me that like that's an unexpected like positive that came out of my whole nose job journey and surgery. And obviously I'm breathing better. Obviously I'm better at cardio. Like, yes, I'm sleeping better. But the real win is that Matt doesn't have to edit so much.
I mean, for the record, it would be like, it sounds like you have like a legit cold, and the only way to like make it sound like you aren't like 2 inches from the microphone, just like breathe it, like just terribly, like I have to edit it out. And you know, ASMR is ASMR, but sometimes it's like, I don't know what to do about this. So like, and we don't believe, like I said, I try not to edit out anything that's like unnecessarily. And I like, as like a homie, I was like, I don't think she needs people thinking that she's like, you know, a hardcore mouth breather or something like so it's like,
but I was, Matt, because only one of my nostrils was working.
Yeah. And now you're fixed. And I think that's awesome. No, yeah, I think that, you know, the Boss Babe series was fun this go around. And that was one of the things at the end of the last season is in our Google Doc that we talk about all the time, I asked what you wanted. And one of the things that you wanted was to do more joint interviews, however that like kind of looked. And that was like my goal, was to get you on more interviews and to hopefully get you to be like more comfortable on interviews where you're participating more, you're jumping in when you need to jump in, you're asking the questions that like you genuinely want to know the answer to, but asking them in a way that like A, sounds good, but B, gets like to the meat of an answer, as opposed to like where they kind of give you the superficial answer that they just like are rehearsed. And that's one of those things about our podcast that I try, and I guess I don't say culture, but like I want to continue to be the thing, is we ask questions that you're not going to hear that guest answer on another podcast. And the more that we can do that, the more we're, you know, selling a product that you're not going to get anywhere else. And you know, I say it all the time. My favorite thing is when they say, oh, that's a good question, because that means they probably haven't been asked that question, or they've
Yeah.
been asked that question, but not in the way that they've been asked. So the answer that they're going to give is not one that they're like prepared to give. So that it makes them think a little bit harder. And I think that, you know, you had some of those, I had some of those, but more importantly, all of the guests were like, oh my God, that was so fun afterwards. And I guarantee 50% of them were nervous as fuck. And,
Yeah.
you know, I shout out to Angie. She was ridiculously nervous before recording. And, you know, afterwards, it, like, I think it gave her a level of confidence in herself that I don't know how we as podcasters could have expected, you know. And one of those things for me, as that's somebody I've known for a really long time, I can tell when she has that like spark and that like, yeah, like that was that, this is like, that was badass. Like, yeah. And to see that look on her face almost immediately into the conversation, you were gentle enough with her, but like welcoming enough in an interview setting to make her feel that almost immediately. And
She did
the conversation
so
just
well.
went.
I adored
I think
talking
so.
to her.
And, you know, that's like I said, it's one of those people I've known for a really long time. So like, it was important to me that we took care of her and that we handled her with more care than any other guest. But, you know, at the same time, we've talked to so many people, both through, you know, your podcast and, you know, our podcast together. And I think that it just becomes, for you listening out there, you know, like, we want to give you the best, I don't want to say entertainment, but the best conversation that becomes entertaining. And, you know, I love getting the feedback, you know, where it's like, man, that was so good. I would have never thought of that. Or that was so good that I felt like I was in the room with you guys having that conversation. I was like yelling at my, you know, my phone or yelling at my car speakers. Cause you know, I was just like, man, that's huge. And those interviews, when they do that, you know, that's not accidental. There's a lot of intent to try and get that, and a lot of nervousness on this side of the microphone in hopes that we get across the points that we're trying to make, as well as like showcase the guest in the best light that we can. So
listen, homies, Matt is so dedicated to putting out quality podcast episodes that he has no problem, and I want him to do this, he has no problem when I in the doc put like 15 episode topic ideas on the list, he'll say no this is ass, this is garbage. Again, not a direct quote, not even a paraphrase. He's much more gentle to me than that. He cares so much about the topics, the conversations that we're having, the, like, you know, hypotheticals that are posed, that he has no problem telling me, no, this is garbage. Thanks, Matt.
Most of the time it's, hey, flush that out a little bit more. How does this conversation go to you? Yeah.
What do you
How's
mean?
this conversation going to go in your head? What are we trying to say here? Because that's also ultimately the point, you know, is the conversation for you. Like, you know, we did the Christmas episode last year where we like gift exchanged, and I thought that was really fun. And, you know, I don't know whether listeners thought it was fun because we didn't necessarily get feedback specifically on that, but just as like, for us, it was like worth it. And I think that, you know, when it comes back around to like this last season, the episodes that I let you just, you know, go off, I think maybe one or maybe two the first season, and this last season, I think minimum there was 4 that I can think of that like I just let you have the mic and just sat here and listen, because, you know, that's what I'm trying to get you as involved in this and as comfortable and feeling like you have some ownership in it as well, because ultimately that's what it is.
There's a new subgenre of Kaitlin-led episodes that I've really started to adore, and that is Kaitlin teaches Matt about a TikTok trend or controversy. I love that. I adore that. I already have one in mind potentially for next season. We've kind of talked about it off air, but we'll revisit. Matt, have 3 goals for next season that I would love to tell you about if you'll allow me.
Yeah, what you got?
First goal, get new fucking headphones.
Yeah.
I'm going to get new headphones. They're like falling out of my ears. I'm constantly messing with them. I'm pushing them in. Like I can tell slowly they start to fall out because I can hear you less and less and less until it's like barely whisper. And then I'll ram them back in my ears and all of a sudden you're yelling at me again. So I'm going to dedicate and pledge and set a goal to get a new set of headphones that I will not mess with as much. Second one is same as last season, but I want to have some insanely cool interviews with cool people. I want to do more joint interviews. Again, kind of maybe a little bit of a cop out, but we made good on that goal from the first season to the second. So let's go even harder, the second to the third. The third goal I have is just vibes. Like I just want more vibes and just more vibes specifically with my homie Matt. Like the essence of this podcast, as fun as it is to do joint interviews and to work on that muscle and develop that skill set, specifically us doing it together, I love to do that. But the foundation of this podcast is just vibes with my homie Matt. I want to teach you about TikTok trends that you probably don't care about and have never heard of. I want to tell you about the sexism and garbage that I have to deal with in everyday life and specifically at work. I want to talk about these difficult topics and chew through them and then be unsettled emotionally for the next 2 or 3 days because you gave me an alternate perspective that I didn't even consider for a moment. I want to do homie vibes. That is the foundation of this podcast. Season 3. Those are my 3 goals.
I like it. So listeners, you're gonna have to give us feedback on those 3 goals and how best to achieve them and still honor you as the audience out there. I like that. One of those things that I think is really hard and really difficult, and I gotta figure out the best way to go about it. But for me, I talk about interviews all the time, and I'm never going to put a guest in front of you that's, trying to sell something, or somebody that's like so polished, like people that are public speakers and have like talking points in their like information when I go to do research. I don't want to interview those people, and no offense to them. Like, that's fine that's what you do. But if you have talking points that like, if I'm going to have you on my show, you're going to like kind of force me into asking you about this list of things. And again, I don't mind sending my questions to, the guests prior so that they have an idea of what we're going to ask. But like, I've been asked to like essentially like rehearse the interview, and it's like, no, because we're about being real and authentic. And if you have a certain level of like rehearsal and like you tell me what your answers are going to be before I what's the point? Like, I can make a blog post out of that, I guess, but like, I wouldn't be able to sell this as a good interview because it's not going to be real. And that's one thing that like, I've been asked probably more than any other question I get about the podcast is like, why did you want to co-host? Or why do you like you could do this by yourself? Why don't you do this by yourself? And my response is always the same, because number one, I don't want it to be stale and to hear my conversation on a one-sided thing without any kind of, contrary belief system or a different perspective that you just kind of brought up that like I hadn't even considered, because your point of view is completely different than mine. And number two, because who wants to sit there and like fall into their own echo chamber? And the more I listen to certain podcasts, the more they become a way for them to just like solidify their view on a thing while not leaving space for anything else. And most of those podcasts end up getting dropped off my like list, because it's like, what's the point of having this conversation? And if you're just gonna like ram home your point without acknowledging anybody else's, and then you can kind of just hear everybody else that normally would have something to say fade out. And I hate that. It's not fun. So for me, having an alternate perspective, but also having guests on here who have something to say, who want to be real and authentic, and who engage in a way that like I leave and I'm like pumping my fist, like, yeah, that was a good one, is important, but also who make me slightly uncomfortable. And like, I have to figure out how to ask this question in a way that like is tasteful, but also, whatever. Like I just listened to a podcast with one of my friends. And one of it was two guys, and her response to a question was weird. And then his response to the question made it even weirder. And like, it was sensitive kind of like topics. So like when he made it weird, it was like, see, and that was that moment where like you took it too far, and now I'm like kind of pulled out of this interview. And like, I don't want those moments to happen on the show. I want them to be real. I want them to be authentic, but also I want the guests to feel safe and comfortable, because that's how a safe space is set to exist. So if you guys have guests, ideas, or people or topics, like when I did a poll the other day, I had basically more lifestyle swinger podcast episodes is what I got told. They want people that are more spicy topics as well. And I think it's so funny because it's like, see, now when those episodes come out and I'm like, hey, can I get some feedback on what you thought? No, everybody's silent. But when I put up a poll like, yo, what episode, do you want more episodes like this? Then it's like, yeah, more episodes like that. It's like, okay, so you're listening to them and you enjoy them. You just don't want to so you just don't want anybody to know that you enjoy them.
You see my face right now?
I see your face, but I don't know what your face means. So
that's perhaps the one topic that I'm excited to learn how to navigate the most for next season. Yeah. How about that?
Yeah. Because we are coming to the end of not only this episode, but also the season, there's people that I was going to line up to do interviews with. And I was like, I don't know how to do this now because we're wrapping the season and I don't want to just drop them randomly, but also I don't want to interview them now and be like, hey, so this isn't going to come out until way later. So I was like, man, I'm just going to have to keep them on the back burner and continue to engage with them so that they know that I'm still a thing. So when I do come back around to be like, hey, let's do this interview, it's not like super random, but yeah, I'm happy to have any conversation with any person. You tell me, especially if you're going to make the introduction. So it's not like just me sending a like blind message to a person like, hey, people said they want me to interview you for my podcast. Would you be interested? Cause those don't usually go well. They're usually like, this is a scam. I don't want to do this. That's always uncomfortable.
You pay us $40 for us to interview
you. Yeah, to interview you. Yeah, exactly. Fucking weird shit. But yeah, no, I do want to also shout out my favorite thing that I did for social media. I love the polls on Saturdays. I think that's been really fun to do. But the episode playoffs was probably one of the most fun situations that we created by accident. So thank you everybody again for participating in that with the votes. Continue to participate in the polls on Saturdays. Even though the season is over, I will probably continue to do that, and we will probably continue to recycle information about episodes so you can go back and listen to them, because that's always fun. So in like 45 seconds, Kaitlin, what is your like final thought of season 2 of Homes Room?
Season 2. We came, we saw, we conquered, we yapped, we had internet issues. Your co-host still made it difficult to edit some episodes from her breathing and scratching her nose directly into the microphone. But you know what? We came and we vibed. We were here. I was here. You were here. Listen to us. Look at us. You know? Shout out to our homies. Love you guys so much. Thanks for still hanging out with us over over a year and a half for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Of Homes Room podcast.
Year and 3/4.
Year and 3/4. 3/4 counts. We've earned that very much. We've earned that. Adore you, homies, and we are gonna come back stronger and better than ever with more yapping. Hopefully less interview, mess ups and internet problems, less toddler screaming in the background. You know, I'm not going to have a cat yelling at my door of my she cave. And you know what, homies? Stay tuned for season 3, because I'm about to be Joanna Gaines up in this bitch, and I think I'm going to redesign my whole background.
There you go.
that?
You come back. Yeah, you come back, and it's completely
Shiplap.
different. I love it. I love shiplap. Yeah, I love it. Love it. So, like I said, for me, I just hope that it's been a safe space and you have learned something. And if you have a favorite thought that you've learned, let us know. Or a favorite like person that just like you weren't expecting to like, and now you're like, damn, that's cool. For me, I'm just gonna say shout out to Lauren, because like Lauren Callahan, because like that episode of like gut health, I get talked to about all the time, and how people are like, damn, I didn't know that so much stuff was going on in your gut and that mattered so much. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, let's enjoy these next few months of being off and, you know, hanging out with family. That's why we're taking a break, because it's the holidays. Yep. And last year y'all didn't listen during the holidays, so we're just gonna take a break early. So yeah, there's that. Hope you guys enjoy it. Go back and listen to some old episodes if you haven't. That's all we got.
We love you. Bye.
Maybe. Now we're going to say bye, because apparently this is having technical difficulties. So now,
love you. Bye.
Third time's the charm. Bye.
The bell is about to ring. If you want to drop us a voice message or simply ask a question, you can do that by clicking the link in the show notes below. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people find us. Theme music by Kinsey. More music available on Spotify. Remember, every day is a class. Go learn something.